So hey, are you a trainer or instructional designer looking for a product that will allow you to create scenario-based dialogues or simulations that will allow you to engage your learners in a different way? Well, we know that these products can be quite expensive, so in this video I'm going to show you how to do this in PowerPoint. So hey, I'm Dr. Craig Engstrom, but you can just call me Craig because I'm an easygoing kind of guy. I'm an instructor of business communication and communication training at Southern Illinois University Carbondale. I look forward to showing you how to use PowerPoint to create simulations. Creating this activity in PowerPoint is relatively simple. In this video, I'll show you the basic PowerPoint features you need to know, identify the elements that go into this activity, and offer 3 ways to share it. So let's go ahead and get started. The hardest part of creating such a dynamic activity is actually creating the scenario. So hopefully you have a storyboard already created, and if you do, you're ready to build your PowerPoint deck. The first thing you will want to do is obviously create a new deck and then know how to add items. You will go to Insert, you will go to New Slide, and for this activity, you're likely to use title and content and blank slides. Let's go ahead and add a blank slide. The next basic feature is switching between outline and normal view. So I am currently in normal view, and you will see that there are section headers, which is actually quite helpful because you can know how you've grouped slides together. So for example, here's the title or overview information. Here's the starting point slide. In scene 1, I have 1 slide, and then I have this option, which I will explain why that's helpful. I have, say, down here, I have 3 slides in the feedback. So I have correct, incorrect answer, incorrect response, and correct response. And I can actually collapse that down. So if I had a lot of slides, you can see where keeping this collapsed could be quite helpful. Let's go ahead and click on that. There's no slide in scene 2, but I could easily add a new slide. And it's going to default to my most recent slide, in which case was a blank one. And then I have that here. Now, if I go to View, and now I switch to outline view, I will no longer see the sections, but I will see the titles of slides. And that can be quite helpful because for this example here, I have scene 1 incorrect A, scene 2 incorrect B, and scene 1 correct C. What this tells me is if I go up to this prompt here, A, B, and C, and I know that C is the correct response and A and B are incorrect because I've labeled them as such. This is a really helpful principle to follow to keep information sort of clear. I always group the incorrect and correct responses or the feedback later in the deck and keep all of these scenarios together. And the reason for that is because under some of the share options, it is possible for learners to jump down to the answers. Let's go ahead and add a title here. So let's say, for example, for scene 2, I'm going to make the correct option A. So I'll just type in scene 2 correct A. If I go to scene 1 correct C, you will note that I actually have the title down here. The reason for this is because I want to hide this off the slide. Now I can actually show you why this is important because if I come up here and I type in something like overview, you will see that it actually, starts going over the other text. So what I can do is I can drag it off the slide, and now when I go to preview, you actually see that you don't see it, but it is labeled there. Okay, so that's very helpful. And let's go back to normal view and move on to the next item. So I've already shown you how to add titles. To add a section, if you're working in a new deck, you will see that there are no sections at all. But the moment that I right click and say add section, now it'll have a section added and I can title it. Let's just call this overview. And now I can add a section here. Let's go ahead and title this answers. I can add a new section or a new slide. Let's add a new slide, add a new section, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this just shows you how to do it. Back to the deck that I'm creating, I can now click on rename section and let's call this overview. Again, I can now collapse. I can even now organize it. I can put overview all the way down at the bottom, just makes it easy to organize slides. The next basic feature that you would want to know is using the selection pane. If I click on this box here and I go to shape format and I go to selection pane, you will see that it's labeled overview list. That's because I've already labeled it and I have title 4 down here. Let's just relabel that overview. Why this is helpful is if we get to a slide that has a lot of elements, you will see that I've relabeled them jump C, jump B, jump A. Note that I can click on these and it'll actually grab the item. So if I go to jump C, you will see this is actually a blank box. You wouldn't actually see that box in preview. What it does do though is I've put it as a hyperlink, so no matter where a learner clicks in this area, it will send them to the slide that I want them to go to. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit easier. So Okay, so if I come back up here and let's say that now I want to start adding elements. So if I go to insert, so that is the next item we're on. We're now ready to build the deck. So if I go to insert, I go to pictures, I can choose a picture off my device, or I can go to stock images. Microsoft Office 365 includes a lot of stock images that are great. I can look up Office. These are royalty free, so this would be helpful for you if you're designing trainings. I'm going to come down and I'm just going to choose, let's say this one here, and insert it. I would want to resize it to the canvas, but chances are they're going to give me options in the design ideas. It just pops on automatically, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on lock. The reason I want to do that is because as I'm adding elements, I don't want to accidentally grab that background item and drag it around. It just makes it a little bit annoying. What I will do though is go ahead and label this as background so that now it's easier to identify what the heck it is. The next thing I want to do is insert a stock character. So I'm going to go to stock images, click on cutout people, and this is where you're going to find all of the possibilities. You can actually choose by the person that you want to add. And once you've chosen somebody, so I've chosen Tanvi, and I can actually just type that name in and it'll bring up all of the characters. I'm going to use that one. I can choose multiple at one time and insert. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just resize just to make it look a little bit better. And then the next thing is, and I can lock this if I want. Now I can go back to selection pane and I'm going to just label this the character's name. So now it's clear to me what is what. The next thing I'm going to want to do is add some dialogue. So I'm going to go to insert, I'm going to go to shapes, and you will see there's a lot of options here. So I'm going to go ahead and use callout. If you're using shapes before, they will be in recently used, but let's go ahead and use this one. I'm just going to drag it like this, and I'm going to maybe make it like that, and I can change the color and so on. I'm just going to type in test. Okay, again, just to make it clear that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and write speech bubble, and I'm going to write test. Okay, so now I know what that item is. The next thing I'm going to do is probably add a click here button. So I'm going to go to insert, I'm going to go to shapes, and I'm going to go to that one and just type in click here. Okay, so you can see that I have all of the elements that I need. Of course, I could have options, and all of the things that you need to create all of this has now been shown. Now that you know how to add all of the elements, keep them organized, the next step would be to create the URLs that are going to allow the learners to jump between a response and another slide and back and so forth. It is really easy to do. The first thing you would want to do though is to make sure, again, go to outline overview and make sure you have everything labeled correctly. You'll note that I don't have a title for this one, so let's go ahead and just call this test. Again, you'll see that it places it there. I'm going to drag it off just so when you visually see it, you don't actually see the title. If I had it on the slide and I went to preview, you would actually see it, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to drag it off. This will now allow me to see it in the list of items to come back, because what I'm going to do is go down here and I'm actually going to pull this up. And let's go ahead and actually insert a button here. And I'm just going to label it go back. Now I'm going to go back to the test. I'm going to click on this. I can go to insert, link, or I can right click, go to link. It's going to open up this. I could actually now link to a web page if I wanted to, but I want to link to another slide. So I'm going to click bookmark, and now you will see all the slide titles. That's why it's helpful to have them labeled. And let's say that I want this to be the correct answer. I would click on scene 2, correct answer A, okay, okay. Now when I click here, it'll take me to that slide. Now there is no go back option, so what I'm going to do is now link back to that. I'm going to go ahead and right click, go to link, bookmark. I'm going to go back to that test slide. Okay, okay. Now when I preview, go back, and I can just bounce back and forth. Now this brings me to an important point. As you are developing your slides and thinking about your storyboard, it's important to think about the ways that your learners will be clicking through items. So for example, you will see that on this slide here, I have a click to continue. Now the thing is, you will actually see that the entire slide, if I go to selection pane, it's just a copy of this one, so it definitely has all the items, but it also has another item, which is the rectangular one, which is this entire thing here that says click to continue. This actually then becomes a URL that I link to this slide here. The reason I do this is because I want them to be able to circle back from this slide. So it says click to return to scene. But if I sent them back here, then basically they would have to still choose an option to move forward, and there's no way for them to advance in the scene. So by bringing them back to this slide, they're able to reread what they have responded to and then go ahead and click continue. So again, after seeing the responses, the correct response specifically, to go back to then the scenario, get reoriented, and then click to the next one. Now, this might not be important for the scenario that you create. There's a variety of ways that you could create scenarios. Like, for example, there is this scenario, and then there's no right or wrong answer, but whatever they choose will send them into a different sequence, thereby creating an interactive experience whereby it's a choose your own adventure type of scenario. Now, of course, it is possible you could have a continue button somewhere here, but the challenge here is if there is supposed to be a response choice, they could always just click continue. So the workaround is to send them to a slide that eventually has them click to move forward. So I hope this was a helpful explanation to make you think through how you're going to be designing your slides ultimately using all the features that I've been explaining. Okay, so now that you know the basic features, how to add all the elements you would need, how to link them, the next thing is to share what you've created. So to do that, it's super simple. You have 3 options. Each of these have pluses and minuses, so I'll go through each one of those. The first option is to export as a PDF. To do that, you would go to File, Export, and then just say Create Adobe PDF. It'll run you through all the prompts for saving it. Once it is saved, learners can then open it, and it's going to look like this document. And it will be all of the URLs and everything you've created will basically be there and be the same. This is great because if you've added all of the alt text for all of the images, you've created everything that you need to create inside of it. It is downloadable so that it can be used offline. It can be user-friendly. It can be universally designed. It can be ready for disability support for anybody with visual impairment because it will function. It will read everything correctly. So you can definitely make sure that you check your accessibility, but you want to make sure all the items, including the buttons and so forth, have the alt text with them. Okay, that's beyond the scope of this video, but definitely this is one option. Another option is to share it as a slideshow. This is great if you are doing it, let's say, for example, in class, or you have the students downloading the PDF and then launching it on their own within their own computer. So to do that, you will go to Slideshow, go to Setup Slideshow. The option that is most likely selected would be presented by a speaker. That's the general sense of like you go into a venue, launch your PowerPoint and present. But if you click Browsed at a kiosk, click OK. Now when I open it, I can be hitting the space bar, I can be hitting the arrow keys, I can be clicking all around. It's not letting me move. I have to actually click on the URL links. So this forces folks to kind of work through it. There's no way to advance the slides without clicking on the URL. Under both the PDF and under the scenario of sharing as a kiosk, it is possible for the learners to basically get to the items when they hit escape, or in this case, you will see, here's all of the answers. This is why I said to set it up where you move through the scenes kind of chronologically and then have all of the options and responses at the back. So again, it depends on your training needs or scenario. The final option is to create a PowerPoint and then share it online in a browser. If you go to your OneDrive, wherever you have your PowerPoint stored, and then open it up into a browser, then you can actually go to Present Live. This would allow you to present, let's say, in a Zoom session or a team session with students while you're presently there with them and kind of go through it like you would if you were in a lecture hall using the kiosk approach, as I demonstrated just a moment ago. But probably the better option is once you have it into this online view is to go to File, and then you would go to, if it's on Info, go to Share. Then you can click on Embed. It'll give you this embed code, copy that, and then you can go to your learning management system. In this case, let's say that it's D2L. And then you can embed into your learning management system in any way that your learning management system does embed. And then if learners are there, they can actually click on it and then interact with the PowerPoint that way. Just with the other limitations of showing in PowerPoint, it does allow learners to kind of jump to where they want to go in it. So there are some limitations to using it this way. So creating this type of simulation within PowerPoint is, of course, somewhat limited. If you wanted to really go the extra step and you're able to afford the software, using something like Adobe Captivate or using something like iSpring, which is a PowerPoint plugin, to set up the role play scenario using a storyboard that's built in, and then have them actually be sort of held to the options, and they can't sort of advance and go forward and so forth. That is possible to do, again, using Adobe Captivate or something like iSpring Suite. But for the purposes of this, hopefully creating it within a PowerPoint will be sufficient for your communication needs. If you happen to have any comments, questions, or feedback, we're happy to accept it. We hope that you found this tutorial helpful. Good luck and happy teaching.